Did you poop your pants? Is that the smell?
I
It smelled
poop,
like rotten eggs.
I poop my pants like rotten eggs.
So Halloween approaches. This is the time of year that we celebrate all things spooky, scary, and thrilling.
Like my credit card debt.
Boom.
No, I don't have any.
Hey, privilege. So today we're going to continue our discussion on things we love about horror films and dive down into our favorite movie monsters and creatures. So this week's Funhaus is sponsored by ExpressVPN. I'll tell you a little bit more about them later on the show. And today I've got my best buds, James and Elise, with me.
Did you see how he had to go? It was originally 2 other people that were going to be on.
Yeah.
And then he had to change it. So it was weird. It's a document. He could have actually struck through the other names.
But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about movie monsters. We talked about vampires a few weeks ago, which
are monsters.
They are monsters. I dubbed the most iconic movie monster to a little bit of disagreement. Iconic, not the best. So,
part of the discussion on vampires and Dracula was that we couldn't really think of a great interpretation in the last 80 years or whatever of the character, like
of the Dracula
vampire character. So
true. Yeah, but so we talked about vampires. We went and saw The Predator and we saw Venom, both movie monsters that, despite the quality of their film, are actually good monsters and good, great creatures. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about monsters, the ones we love, and maybe why.
Okay.
Miss Elise, I know you love horror movies.
I do.
You got any monsters you really like?
I had a few. I can start with my favorite.
Yeah,
movie
what's your
monster
fave?
Is Freddy Krueger,
Mm.
who he's a man. He's he was a man. And that, I think, is one of my favorite things about Freddy Krueger, is how his backstory ties into his character design, and his monstrosities tie into his backstory and what happened to him, which I think is really interesting. He's not just this nebulous monster that came out of nowhere.
What is it that happened to Freddy?
So
I honestly don't remember.
Oh, really?
Starting from like if you want to start from what we learned in Nightmare on Elm Street 1, it's that Freddy Krueger was perceived like child molester.
That's right.
And he kind of got out of the judicial system. It failed the kids.
Oh, no.
And so the parents of Elm Street, I think it's Springwood is the community, they said, we're going to take vigilante justice. Oh God, this is so good. We're going to take vigilante justice into our own hands, and we're going to go, I think Freddy Krueger's was like the groundskeeper at the school. They said, we're going to burn him, lock him up in his tool shed or whatever, where I think
so it's a little tragic.
Did they intend,
well,
I know it's changed a couple times, but wasn't it like they were going to go and confront him, and because the judicial system, but then was it that they explicitly we're going to kill you and murder you, or
I think they were going to murder him. I think that was the intention, because they burned him alive. That's why he's so scarred, is because of the gasoline from the fire. From
was
the
he a
burns.
molester?
I mean, I don't think Freddy's ever been cleared of that charge. I think it's always sort of been implied that yes, he actually did commit these crimes.
Okay. I guess after all the murders, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, and so the parents said, I think the reason he got off on a technicality, there wasn't a warrant or something, so he didn't get prosecuted.
Sucks.
There was, this is we're watching now the reboot, right?
Yeah.
Which again, we've talked about it before. The Friday the 13th reboot was almost good, because it almost flipped the script on the idea of the killer and stuff. This is the same Platinum Dunes reboot of of Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was so close to being good too, because it.
So I never saw it.
It's
is he innocent? Is that what it asked?
it makes you think he is.
Oh,
and so you're like,
okay.
oh shit, an innocent man. Like we just saw he's getting run down by the parents and he's begging, he's saying, please, please, no, it's not what you think, it's not what you think.
Yeah.
And he's begging for forgiveness. So a lot of times you think, but then at the end of the movie they're like, no, but he did do it.
Okay.
He did murder and rape children.
This one didn't really appeal to me, so I never saw it. I should go back and watch it. But then there's kind of like more to Freddy Krueger, because in the third one, Dream Warriors, which is excellent. I love 1 and 3. I think are the best Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But in Dream Warriors, there's this like nun character that keeps appearing, and you're like, what's going on with her? And then you kind of learn that Freddy Krueger, he has like pretty demented origins. Mm-hmm. So his mother was a nurse at this psychiatric hospital, forget her name, but she got locked in over a Christmas like holiday when the inmates got locked in with her. Like she got trapped in a room with all the inmates.
They just leave them there over Christmas?
Well, they basically like raped her and like assaulted her for like a whole like Christmas weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's why Freddy Krueger is known as the bastard son of 100 maniacs, because no one knows who his father is. Oh. And this is like his horrible origin. But like, to me, that's just such a crazy, twisted, dark, you know, origin for this horrible villain. But I love that, like, well, if he was, you know, the groundskeeper at the school, him having knives like makes sense for his hands.
I love the name, the bastard son of 1,000 maniacs. That's pretty solid.
I think it's just 100. I think it's just 100. But
okay.
Yeah. But
they hadn't, or psychiatric overcrowding hadn't really
hadn't happened yet.
They hadn't shut them all down yet.
The system hadn't failed everyone yet. But like, to me, he's one of the most iconic. You can recognize Freddy Krueger everywhere, and I think that's like part of the character design.
The claw,
and
the sweater.
There are some
super
great moments in Nightmare on Elm Street movies where you see, you know, Freddy's silhouette, backlit, you know, a shadow, and you know it's him. Mm-hmm. Like, the character design is so iconic. There's no disputing who that is from, like, the hat, the fedora. Mm-hmm. He's fedora wearing, and he targets young women. So
there you go. Say no more.
He's one of the best.
Well, I think there's something else to how scary Freddy is, because you talked about the character itself, but in terms of the movie, the idea of not being able to sleep, that you're most vulnerable when you're sleeping, is like a terrifying thought.
Absolutely.
So part of the reason Nightmare on Elm Street is so good is because it's this great villain. They didn't rely entirely on the premise. Day 5.
Burn.
No, but like there's like more to it. It's like the fear of that, and then also when this stuff starts happening, like, and people around are just utterly, completely confused by what's going on. And the dude from Enter the Dragon is there, like.
Well, yeah, I think it does. It taps into that thing that it's something everyone can relate to, and that's that they sleep and are super vulnerable when they do.
Well, but the idea that is, hey, the only thing you have to do to avoid being killed by Freddy Krueger is just not sleep, is terrifying.
Yeah, something you have to do.
You know, so like it's just on its own, it's just a great concept for a horror movie.
It is.
And Johnny Depp's there.
Johnny Depp's like first role.
That was the first movie, right?
Yeah.
Excuse my naivete. Do they ever explain how he gets his dream powers?
I don't remember. Honestly, like 1 and 3 are the ones that I've seen the most, because I think I've only seen like the second one in the New Nightmare. I don't remember if they've ever been like, this is why he can haunt their dreams.
Okay. I think it's just he died in such a horrifically violent manner.
Yeah, because in the third one, the kind of like solution,
the tongue coming out of a phone.
He's
is like
so much fun
horrifying.
too, and like that's the great thing about his character design. I'll mention this later, but like, in the third one, they're like, oh, Freddy's bones were just kind of like dumped in the parents just dumped his bones in this like weird shallow grave. So he needs to be taken to like hollow ground or whatever, and then he'll stop haunting the kids. It's kind of like supposed to be the fix for Freddy. For Freddy.
So if they take his
Hetty
bones
Krueger
and bury
is
them?
the Scottish. But I think also, like, just pointing to his actual monster character design, you can, in later movies, you know, there's big giant like Snake Freddy. There are all these like comical versions of Freddy too, like Nurse Freddy. And you always know it's him because you can put him in any other costume and then still have like the hat or the claws or the scars, and you know it's him.
Yeah.
Like, he's so iconic in his visuals, but I love him.
He also has personality.
Yeah, he's got spunk.
Wait,
over the top, not a silent killer.
Coming off of the Michael Myerses and the Jasons of the world, which was just this
brute in a mask.
Stalker, I guess you would say. Like, he would mock you and play with you before he finished you.
And trick you, and
I always liked the thematic elements of children paying for the sins of their parents, too.
Yes.
Like, that's a big part of it.
Because that's in Dream Warriors, the third one, the children he's targeting are, like, the final remaining, like, children of those parents that burned him alive.
Yeah.
So it's, like, to the nth degree.
But it's fun. This Freddy vs. Jason was good.
It was so much fun.
Yeah,
a great theater experience.
I've seen it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just fun to think about, because like a lot of these movies, like the Star Wars and stuff, like it's impossible to watch them without knowing that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father and stuff. But like, I imagine it must have been a lot of fun to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street, not knowing about it, going, "What is this thing we're being?" Because like at the first half of the movie is these kids going, "Why is this happening to us? What are these murders that are happening and everything?" And then the parents are like, what you're describing sounds a little bit like this, and then it's like a reveal, and I think that's a very cool element. Like it's a layer that most horror movies don't really.
Yeah.
So New Freddy was Jackie Earle Haley.
Yes.
He's pretty amazing.
He was
He's
a
cool.
really good Freddy Krueger. Again,
he's
movie's
great in
very
almost
well
everything he
made. It
does.
just kind of shits the bed towards the end.
Oh.
Yeah. The dream sequence is really good too.
Good old Freddy.
I went to like Halloween Horror Nights, and there's this part, or there was, where like they drop you off the tram to these kind of maze areas, and they're like, all right, well, fend for yourself. And they have a bunch of people like dressed as various Freddy Kruegers, like chasing you around, and it's pretty creepy.
I remember that around that place there's also a couple dozen people chasing you with chainsaws without the chain on them.
Ugh.
Even though you know the chain's not on there.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Even though the masks are like pretty cheesy,
smell
like
of the
Halloween,
gas.
like Party City grade, it's still creepy.
Good times.
But yeah, I have more we can get into later.
Yeah, we can come back to Freddy. Maybe.
Well, you have
I know
a
you have
list
some.
of
Yeah, you have a.
we have others we can talk about if
ghouls
but
and what
if
have
you guys
you.
want to get to your.
Well, real quick. So my favorite horror movie is The Thing.
This is a great movie.
John Carpenter's version of it. Actually, haven't seen the remake. I don't know if you guys.
I haven't seen it either.
I should watch that.
I've only seen the original.
But I love The Thing, the titular character, because it changes a lot. I guess I don't know.
It's just that weird balding ginger-headed guy on the end of a weird, like, fleshy stem.
Oh yeah. When his head pops off and turns into a spider.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the cool things. It's not just like the same creature every single time, but throughout the movie it changes. You know, there's 4 or 5 different looks to it, and they're fucking horrifying.
Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of like the scariest part of it is the unknown of like who it's inhabiting and how nebulous that is.
Yeah, and I think that kind of a Thing trailer going.
I like when the guy's like, all right, now to resuscitate him, and he just his whole belly opens up to a mouth,
eats his hands off.
Have you ever seen the anime Parasite?
Mm-mm.
It reminds me a lot of that. That has some great, definitely Thing-inspired visuals as to what can happen to the human body when invaded by some sort of alien. Because that's what's scary about it, right?
Yeah, it takes over your body, right?
It's the merging of human, recognizable, and foreign oddity.
Yeah, when it's a giant, like, bulbous, tumorous mass, but it's still got eyes and a face somewhere in it. I think one of the other really neat things, other than just, like, a monster following you around, is that it does take over, you know, your friends, people you trust. It takes over their bodies. So instead of just like running from one, you know, scary shadow for the whole movie, about halfway through, maybe not even halfway through, they're they're afraid of everybody. Even your best friend or someone you trusted with your life is now possibly the Thing.
The paranoia that it establishes.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's an extra level of scary, I think, other than just someone chasing you around. I think the isolated location helps in that too, when they're in this like Antarctic research facility. Yeah, I think the name's great too, because it's so nebulous. It's just The Thing. I don't know. I think it's got a great name.
Have they ever elaborated on the backstory of The Thing? Because John Carpenter said it comes from, because that's what ruins everything.
Is
like
telling
Predator's
where it's
really cool until they go, there's a whole planet full of predators, you know.
Oh yeah.
And there's teenage predators that go to Predator High.
Predator Prom.
Well, I didn't see the prequel, which was also, I guess, half of a remake that they did a couple years ago, and I'm assuming they elaborated a little bit more in that, and probably why the movie wasn't well thought of.
Yeah.
But yeah, Monster from Space.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it starts the same way both Venom and the Predator started. Adam's not here to defend himself, but he said no movie should start with a spaceship flying into Earth's orbit, but that's exactly how the thing starts.
A thing clinging to the side of it. That's what I always think of. I think of like it's just hanging on.
I think you can't start a movie now because
it's been
movies like
trope done.
It's troped.
Yeah.
It's troped. So like you
maybe
could
that's
have
why it
done
works.
when this John Carpenter is allowed to
like
do
82,
it
I think.
in the dawn of his career.
he went spaceship flying. No one's done that.
Yeah.
1982.
It used to always be like a guy in a cowboy coming over the hillside or something, or a large panorama.
I mean, there still is like stupid and cheesy shit in the movie, and maybe since it's from 1982, I excuse its faults a lot more than the Predator or Venom or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of great scenes in the movie. That blood test scene when he's jabbing the needle in the blood to see which one's the thing. I don't know. Just something about that building tension. Murdering your friends and not being able to trust anybody. I think maybe appeals to me more than just like some teenagers running away from a creepy guy with a mask.
There's something to me about being trapped in Arctic weather that is so much more terrifying than being like, oh, I'm trapped in like this, in the jungle, the depths of the jungle. Like there's just something, I don't know.
You hate being cold, I think.
I think I hate being cold. It's just also like a really bleak feeling, I guess, too.
Have you ever seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Long time ago.
Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like a similar premise, but it's creepy, but way less scary to me than The Thing. The Thing is like the idea filtered down into its most pure. It's just a small group of people together in an isolated location, where in like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, they're like all over the place, and they're like, we can hide amongst them and do that. And I mean, the last shot is scary, but
and they're also still like giving the illusion of, well, I guess never mind.
It's similar to the Predators. It does too much to kind of show
to explain
more
where they're coming from.
What you really need. I did see this one.
Is that got Joel Edgerton?
Shit, I think I did.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I think I did watch this, and it was that memorable.
Oh boy, the guy had a uke. I don't know, rad movie. The guy, I think it's Rob Bottin, hasn't done a whole lot recently, but I think essentially slept and lived on the set when he was making all the monsters for The Thing, exhausting himself. Kind of a funky guy. I actually put in the DVD to rewatch this movie last night and remembered special features exist. So there's a nice like hour-long making of that was really fun.
I wish like
shit doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and it's one of those things with life where it's like you barely have time to watch the movie, let alone go and then watch the special features. I wish I had time to do more of that.
Well, they might go away.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Actually, like it's really funny that you brought up like the movie monster thing, because this weekend I was trying to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street documentary, like 3-hour documentary on YouTube.
Why?
But I couldn't find it with subtitles, and I was awake during the night.
In German or something?
No, I was asleep. Sorry, I wasn't asleep. I was awake, but it was during the night, and I didn't want to get out of bed, and I didn't want to wake you up. So I was like, I'll just watch it on my phone and turn the subtitle and like have no audio. But there weren't. That's my boring story. No. But it was just a funny like coincidental thing.
One last thing.
So I've never seen it.
One last thing about The Thing. It's all right. Back in the days when things had to be practical, because computer effects were not there yet, they're kind of trash. But I love practical monsters and everything from Star Wars to whatever is coming out. I think there's something it can be cheesy having a guy in a rubber suit, but there are no dudes in suits in this really. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about pouring jelly on top of a dog's skull with blood on it that makes it more believable to me, even though you can tell it's a puppet. It's not poorly rendered graphics.
I will say, if you've watched the behind the scenes for The Last Jedi, when they were doing screen tests for those crystal foxes,
yeah,
on the salt planet,
those were rad, yeah.
Though obviously those are all CG, but the original screen tests had them like gluing things to little dogs, and it looked like garbage. So there we are at the point now where sometimes computers can look better than practical.
Yeah, it's weird how like sometimes even with like a lot of money, practical can look garbage, and then not to plug our own, sister brand, but like Sugar Pine 7's The Woods, how they have their like practical. I was like really, really impressed and surprised by how good they made that.
Yeah.
like come across. And a lot of that was, camera work too, and angles and what you did and didn't see, but that was really good.
No, I miss practical, I guess. So let me talk about our sponsor real quick. ExpressVPN. James, you know what a VPN is?
I do.
Can you tell us?
It's like a virtual protection network.
Virtual private network.
That's it.
You got it. Why do you need a VPN? Privacy. Without a VPN, your internet browsing data can be tracked by your ISP, cellular provider, ad companies, and hackers. Anonymity. When you use a VPN, your public IP address is masked so that even the websites you visit won't be able to identify you. Security. VPNs encrypt your internet data, preventing others from sniffing your information over the network. Unblock content. Access to content that is only available in some countries. So years ago, I lived in a country that severely censored the internet. I tried to set up a VPN, but it was far too complicated for me. I would have killed to have had the ease of ExpressVPN there so I could keep up with my stories. It is beyond simple to set up. Why is ExpressVPN the best? They've got the fastest speeds, consistently faster than other VPN providers. ExpressVPN has server locations in 94 countries, giving you plenty of options to choose from. They've got apps for every device: Windows, iOS, Android, Mac, Linux, router, and more. It's easy to use. You can connect with just one click. It's internet without restrictions. Securely stream or download content from anywhere, anytime. They've got the best in-class encryption. ExpressVPN is the market-leading VPN, rated the #1 VPN service by TechRadar. ExpressVPN is less than $7 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Take back your internet privacy today and find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link in the description box, expressvpn.com/filmhouse. That's expressvpn.com/filmhouse for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/filmhouse to learn more. Take back your privacy today. Thank you, ExpressVPN, for sponsoring this episode of Filmhouse. We appreciate it. James.
Yes.
Monsters. Where are you at on Monsters?
I'm going back to the basics, baby. I love myself a Wolfman.
Wolfman.
I love myself a Wolfman.
Benicio del Toro?
I was actually going to reference it. That movie is great. Well,
Is
maybe
it
not
really?
great.
It's not bad. I didn't.
It's
The Wolfman?
The Wolfman, one word, not to be confused with The Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney.
Is Emily Blunt in this?
Yeah. This movie is
Anthony
actually
Hopkins.
Yeah.
So the big thing about this movie is it has fucking style for days.
I love style.
It's sweet, and it
Fashion
has a
over
point
function,
where there's
baby.
a guy in one of those medical auditoriums. But this is like honestly the good version of Ang Lee's The Hulk, where it's like sins of the father kind of.
Yeah.
We got some stories there, but yeah, I mean, obviously this movie came and went, and I'm talking about the whole genre and the whole character, but
All of the Wolfmans.
I wanted to specifically shout out this one because I thought it was kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad.
yeah, like Benicio del Toro is this weird guy, and the Wolfman transformation is fucking great. It's kind of on that between CG and practical border, but there are some moments where he is like
Hugo
in like practical makeup, and it looks pretty good. When he moves around like a wolf, it's not so great, but I just think I've always been partial to the combination of man and wolf. Like even in our D&D, I always thought the idea of a Wolfman. I used to have a Ghostbusters action figure. There's a werewolf action figure, and it was a man who was a wolf, but he had like his shirt was all tattered, and he's clearly a businessman. And my favorite Darkstalkers character was always John Talbane, the karate Wolfman.
I remember when you put my jean shorts on Benson and said that he was like a werewolf who had transformed.
I always thought that was
pretty
such
funny.
an awesome. The idea of being able to do that and control it was so cool. But I also think that every single Wolfman movie, it's synonymous now with the transformation.
Yeah.
Right? You like watch half the movie just so you can see the transformation.
Same with Russell Crowe and Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in Mummy.
Yeah, like when his eyes got a little red.
I guess you do probably judge a Wolfman movie entirely on the effects of the transformation and the costume.
Yeah.
I guess whatever they do.
I mean, it's like almost like a cinematic event now. Like so obviously An American Werewolf in London is a cheeky take on the Wolfman story, but still was like, this transformation has to be legit.
Yeah.
And it became a cinematic thing. Actually, the Wolfman movie, which never gets any credit, won an Academy Award.
What about
really?
For effects
makeups?
and makeup.
I like I think one of the things I love the most about the kind of classic horror monster movies is the period. Like when they do that kind of Victorian London or something about taking away technology makes the horror movies more legit to me.
Well, and when it's always like science done in the name of progress, but then it backfires, like Penny Dreadful. Oh,
well,
so good.
I think another reason I like the Wolfman story is because it's always like, it's not like someone's being stalked. It's them, right?
It's their own regression into animal.
Yeah, you can't like evade yourself is a big part of it. You can't run away from yourself. Ooh, John Landis. Where's Adam? But
I guess the terror of also like what you do when you don't have control over yourself. When your basic instincts come about and you eat a baby or whatever.
But it's like, well, is he doing it because the wolf is in control, or is this something he always like? Is this an extension of the person that was always there before?
Or it just helps him play basketball better.
Or it helps him play basketball. Teen Wolf is a great example. But like, it is. I do like how they use the transformation and the like fleeing as an escape, and then ultimately, I mean, most werewolf stories end with the person going like, "But now I must die." Like, the only answer is death,
sacrifice.
To me, what I like most about it is it plays into the whole like you can't escape yourself thing. But whenever there's a werewolf that's portrayed and they're in their human state, and the full moon is coming, and they're terrified.
They're itching and sweating.
Of the ramifications of this full moon because you can't escape it.
Yeah.
That I always think is like a really great character piece.
Mm-hmm. If it's the kind of story where it's like, listen, I found a way to live with this.
Yeah.
But as long as everything goes right, but it's still like the full moon is coming.
I mean, Harry Potter, he just kind of like locks himself away, Lupin, right?
Yeah. And I also think it's cool because werewolves appear in a bunch of stuff, like their folklore. They're like Freddy Krueger isn't going to pop up, and he's a very specific monster.
Yeah, he's a modern day monster.
A modern day monster, whereas werewolf is like this hundreds of years old thing about where this has come from. Yeah. Let's not forget about Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh my God.
You told me you were going to talk about that movie, and I don't know that I knew it existed.
Really?
Yeah.
It was
Wolf, right?
It was made werewolf sexy.
I hate to cut away from the Teen Wolf trailer.
I would also like to especially shout out the trash interpretations of werewolves, where people are just completely garbage.
Not trying.
I mean,
so was this good at all? I mean, I love Jack Nicholson.
I don't know.
I mean, you've never heard of it, so
it's your classic sexy '90s thriller. Remember that one? That was like a really popular genre.
Sexy thriller.
Yeah.
Sexy '90s thriller.
Sleeping with the Enemy.
Yeah, Sleeping with the Enemy and Sliver and like all these movies and stuff. But Jack Nicholson as a werewolf.
I'm a werewolf. Deer.
Like,
whoa!
Jackie's a werewolf.
Yeah.
It looks pretty stupid.
But I also hate when, like, because obviously the Dooku is coming about. I don't like when werewolves are relegated to being servants of other monsters.
Who's the werewolf in Dooku?
I don't know that they
Did they not get that far?
They never. Didn't they cast Javier Bardem? No. Who was Javier Bardem?
He was
supposed
in
to
that
be?
Picture.
Maybe he was.
Who's the werewolf?
They're probably.
We should look it up.
He was Hunchback.
But this steps a little bit too much on like Witches of Eastwick for me.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, because isn't Michelle Pfeiffer in that, and then he's kind of doing that same whole like thing when he becomes like the devil in that.
Again, it's like sexy magic, but like Twilight is garbage. The idea I hate when it's he's a man who then turns into a wolf. No, you need the transitional phase. You need a man who becomes a man wolf. That's what you want.
Yeah, I guess some Wolfman trailers, the transformed creature is just a wolf,
which is garbage.
A large wolf. No, you got to have the half.
Twilight sucks.
Half-C.
Twilight sucks ass. And then also, I think as much as Underworld is a sweet movie from its time period, the werewolves in this, I was so let down as a lifelong werewolves fan. When they were like vampires versus werewolves, and I'm like, sweet.
Yeah,
the werewolf design in this is pretty trash. They all look like leathery gorilla monsters.
Javier Bardem was Frankenstein's monster.
Oh. So they didn't have
Right?
a werewolf. They did not have
Not
a
yet.
cast a werewolf.
Who was Johnny Depp?
He was
I think he was
Invisible
Invisible Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you skip the werewolf, Dooku?
Maybe that was going to be a later surprise. So, like, has monster movie interest declined? Like, we've seen the failure of the Dooku.
Maybe so.
Like, do people not? I mean, there's
Venom.
Honestly,
Venom's here.
if somebody made a monster universe, I think it'd be really cool. Not orchestrated the way the Dooku was, but
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is it's not like when you see Thanos or Black Panther or whatever, it's like the first time you've seen these things. I think that's part of the success of them. They're good stories, but I think it's like, this is the first time I've seen Ant-Man on a screen, or I cared about this character, or this is the first time I really feel like Captain America has been done justice. But I mean, they've been making horror movies for 100 years.
Almost.
So
yeah.
you can generally look back and find pretty good interpretation of what that character should be on a screen already, you know?
That's a really good question. I'm trying to think of a new creature or a new monster that they've had recently.
I actually really hate most new monsters.
Yeah.
The monster design in most, like the monster design in Stranger Things, I think is garbage. The
Well, you
monster
can't ever
design
see it.
from 8mm, the J.J. Abrams movie, is garbage.
I'm trying to even remember that monster.
It's weird. It's like we've transitioned away into monster design, which is indiscernible CG from afar.
There's enough fog to cover up any details, even though we can render that.
there are a few like good ones. One was on my list, but one I just kind of was thinking about now is, what was the Anne Hathaway movie with Jason Sudeikis?
The Anne Hathaway movie with Jason Sudeikis.
It wasn't called like Monsters, was it?
Oh yeah, about the giant.
Yeah.
The kaijus,
Yeah.
gigantic, big.
Oh, yeah, where she,
Like,
like-
I thought the design in that was,
Yeah.
what's it called?
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was that, but something to that.
Such like Anne Hathaway monster.
Well,
probably
you mentioned a monster, the best monster design in recent
Yeah,
modern cinema.
on my list,
Colossal.
like
Colossal.
Colossal. I thought those were pretty like okay looking.
Yeah, but those are like so harkening back to.
they're Japan.
Yeah.
They're Godzilla,
They're
kaiju.
That's a great monster, but it is one that's been around
Yeah.
for almost 100 years.
But like the one I wanted to mention, which is a new monster, is which was from an amazing movie, Attack the Block.
Mm-hmm.
But the monster design in this movie is incredible. It's not even as much in like the actual design of the alien creatures, but in the fact that they don't resemble what you're typically told aliens look like.
Yeah.
And also the color of them, it's like the blackest black depths. Like I don't know if we'll see them in this trailer.
I don't know if they revealed it in the trailer, but there was something that when you see it, it is all black, but
it's
you
just
can
like,
still read it.
And its
yeah,
teeth.
it's like a black hole, but teeth
Saliva.
and that green light it kind of emits from its mouth. Like it was just the coolest like new monster,
Yep.
and I don't.
There
I'm
it
sure
is.
there's other stuff we're not thinking. Yeah, sure there's other stuff like we're not thinking of, but this is one that like just stuck.
Such a great movie, by the way.
so
Yeah,
good.
this movie's awesome.
Surprising.
Again, kind of like The Thing. It's this whole city is being affected, but they're just like, let's focus on this
Yeah.
very small group, and what this group does to help everything.
Shots where like they're running in slow mode and those monsters are chasing them. Like,
Also, Doctor Who's in this.
oh, that we just saw like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit of it.
Yeah, and the slime,
pitch
like
black,
neon.
yeah.
You only see the
Great design. Also, you don't know. You're like, is that practical or is that
Yeah.
not practical, or is it's
A
like
It was a nice mix of the two,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
both? Yeah, but it's good design.
But yeah,
And
oh
it
god,
also fits the urban vibe of the movie.
I just got goosebumps thinking of like the end when they're.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like most monsters are really bad. The Cloverfield thing. I don't know.
Well, those Godzilla, the giant monsters have got to be kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
To render correctly and show you, but also terrify you.
I guess they're just made so non-organically that you're like, is that an arm? Or like, I thought in the most recent Godzilla looked good, but what he fought looked like trash. Like there were like these like cephalopod things or whatever, right? They're like weird. I don't know. I like me a good just
Werewolf
monster I can
man.
understand. What's the front? What's the back? What's the top? What's the bottom?
Show me that bottom.
Yeah.
So, Elise, I know you're a huge GDT fan.
I
Guillermo del
am.
Toro. He's a monster man himself, and is actually we were talking about modern ones, and that's the one I guess he popped into my head because you mentioned the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth earlier.
Yeah. Because
he does a good job on his monsters most of the time.
His monsters are great.
And he's got a big passion because like you went to his At Home with Monsters exhibit too.
Oh my god, that was maybe the coolest art exhibit I've ever seen in America.
Guillermo del Toro just has this like personal collection of like it's artifacts from his films, but also from like the different works he loves that are all particularly related or tangentially related to horror. But man, it was so cool.
It was frightening, but awesome. I don't know. Yeah, you had costumes and frames from old horror films.
The thing is, in like most of his movies, it's the human that's usually the monster, especially Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, that's an interesting theme that he has hammered in several films, is that the monsters are, maybe misunderstood or they're not the villain. It's some horrible man, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, what was Shape of Water? That's a great creature. And again, the man was the monster, right?
Yeah, even in like
the Pan is cool too.
El Orfanato, like the like scary little boy. It's like, well, he's not really the monster, but the Pale Man is super creepy though.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Is that Doug Jones?
Yeah.
He's pretty cool. Oh.
But I also like, I guess you could technically think, like, depending on how you interpret this film, this fawn, I mean, you could think
Definitely
of it as like
creature monster.
whether I used to feel like whether his intent or not.
Because it was kind of malicious, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like, is the fawn really trying to trick her, I guess, or so.
It's such a great movie.
Yeah.
What's he making now?
Shit.
Whatever he wants.
More Hellboy?
Oh, but what was he making?
I don't know.
Is he making
Pacific Rim 3?
No.
That second movie, well, not that the first one was good, but I watched Pacific Rim 2 recently. It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what he's working on.
I feel like I follow him on Twitter, so I feel like I see every once in a while.
At Elise Willems. Here's what I'm working on now.
What has he got there? Oh.
Nightmare Alley Pinocchio?
Oh.
Troll Hunters. There's good.
Oh man, what?
I don't know.
There's writing. I don't know what Nightmare Alley is.
Oh, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, that's it.
Right.
Because at that Monsters exhibit, he has like all the original covers.
Yeah, because he's a maniac.
Man, so rad.
Could you imagine? That's one of those things where it's like, man, what a cool exhibit. And they're like, yeah. And it exactly recreates his living room. And I go, kill me.
The thing is, I feel like if you submerge yourself in it enough, it just becomes commonplace for you.
I don't want it to be, though. I don't want it to be. I already live in enough bubbles. I don't need that to be an additional bubble of horrific fear that I exist in. Skulls, smoking pipes. Yeah.
All right. Any other monsters? I know, Alicia, you had a couple.
I had one
Did we
more,
touch them all?
which is, well, if we have time,
Well, yeah,
like you
we
mentioned,
got a few
but
minutes.
was Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
Seymour. And I mean, that's a little bit more like camp.
Yeah.
Not really scary. But
There's nothing wrong with camp.
I'm pretty sure like Jim Henson Workshop created Audrey.
Well,
And
I think the best thing about the design for Audrey is that, like, it's terrifying, like the idea of a giant man-eating plant that fills an entire basement. But then you're like, kind of cute though.
Yeah.
Like, kind of cute. A lot of personality. I love that. I'd feed that plant.
it's just fun and it's different. Like I feel like when you saw this movie, you hadn't seen anything like Audrey 2. And the fact that it's also named Audrey 2, it's pretty great.
Good old Rick Moranis.
The voice, and it lets us pretend like Rick Moranis still making stuff. But
Candy.
and the different stages of growth of Audrey 2. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But like I guess if we kind of like dig around, they're all kind, especially like when you look at the Jim Henson Creature Shop, like the Skeksis from Dark Crystal, and that like all kinds of like weird monsters that I guess are different monsters from what we've seen.
Yeah.
Oh God, Steve Martin is so good as the dentist.
Well, that ties right into my
monsters.
other monster, Man.
Oh.
Man is sometimes the most frightening monster. Because I always like zombies, and I go, but any zombie movie, you get past the zombies pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then it focuses on the real villain, Man himself. But that's kind of boring.
Also, when Dan was like asking me my list, I was like, Time Magazine's you.
Yeah. I also think ghosts are pretty scary too.
I mean,
we don't need to devote a lot
do
of time
too.
to it, but more so than demonic possession. Anytime it's
You
just
separate the
ghosts,
two?
yeah, absolutely. Anytime it's demonic possession, I'm like, no, I don't care about that, because that's like it has a motive or whatever. Ghosts, which are just like, this place is just spooked. This place is just bad spookiness, like The Shining or something, like, or.
Oh, she's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying monster.
Young Love.
So there was one other movie you talked about that I'd never heard of, James, and that was Ginger Snaps.
Oh yeah, Ginger Snaps.
fuck is
Really?
that?
You don't know Ginger Snaps? Or
Ginger-
Ginger Snaps 2?
Ginger Snaps is a werewolf movie, but it's great because it's like kind of like how there's always some sort of other theme. There's I think 3 of them. One of them takes place back in time though.
But isn't the guy that made them like a creep or
Maybe
something?
he might be, but they're these. Are they Canadian?
It looks
I
Canadian.
don't, maybe that's why
They're these
they aren't as well known.
low budget horror movies about these 2 girls that are basically like going through their adolescence, but one of them is bit and like becomes a werewolf.
It's a good metaphor.
And so yeah, I mean it's basically that's what the whole thing is. And so
Changing bodies.
the other friend is being left behind by this girl who's going through this transformation, and then but I mean the movie. I remember I watched like these movies over the course of like a long weekend or something. I rented them with a friend, but I was like, oh, it's fun. Like it's a fun reinterpretation, a way to use werewolf stuff in it. But I don't know. I just thought was that James Marsden?
No.
I'm trying to figure out. It's been a long time since I've seen this. I'm trying to figure out who that girl is.
Which
Not
girl?
The other one.
Oh, I don't know. Could be anyone.
Where's she from?
But yeah, Ginger Snaps. There's Ginger Snaps 1.
What is Ginger Snaps? Like, what is the...
I think Ginger is the name of the girl.
Oh, no, it's from 2000.
So I think it's like Ginger Snaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it became like a weird franchise.
Yeah.
And so there's like Ginger Snaps 3, which takes place in like colonial times. And it's about like witches and werewolves, but it still has the same actresses in it. I don't know.
Maybe I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just to wrap it up, I think movie monsters and creatures are maybe one of the neater things that films bring us. You know, stories allow you to picture it in your head, I guess, if you're reading a book. But something about movie monsters are special, and I think it's something that only movies seem to be able to do, and that's, you know, create horrors to terrify us. There's something neat about, you know, little suits or whatever little production design things they have to do to make them come about. I don't know. It's just one of the neater things to films.
Yeah. Books can be scary, but I feel like they're always scary in different ways.
Sure.
Right? Like,
well, a lot of that's your imagination
yeah.
implanting
Or
there.
Which I don't have.
Yeah, you can't come up with no Babadook.
All right,
No,
but yeah, movie monsters. Any last thoughts?
Bring back the Dooku. It's time for a 4th shot at the Dooku.
All right, let's end it on the Dooku. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week. I think we're going to try and go see Halloween. So if you go see Halloween this weekend, come and tune in next week and see what we have to say about it.
Cool.
Right on. Bye, everybody.
Bye. When a movie is as broken as this is, it makes it really hard to predict. So I did appreciate the aspect of my not being able to sit in the movie and guess what was going to come next. Because I was applying the rules of logic.
I didn't anticipate the bad guy would murder all the scientists he's been working with for 20 years.
Well, no,